There is a cruel paradox in the modern world that is rarely spoken about in orientation manuals or motivational seminars, and it is the fact that the reward for digging the best holes is not a rest, but a bigger shovel. We are taught that merit is the only currency that matters, and that if we are efficient and reliable and skilled, we will climb the ladder to success. But for many, the ladder is a trap, and their very excellence becomes the chain that binds them to the bottom. This is the curse of competence. It is the story of the load-bearing wall which cannot be moved to the penthouse, because if you move it, the whole building collapses. This is the story of a man named Robert, who learned that in the eyes of a system, capability is not a ticket to promotion. It is a justification for exploitation. Robert was a quiet man who worked in the operations department of a sprawling logistics firm called Apex Global. He was not the loudest voice in the room, and he did not wear the flashiest suits. He was a man of invisible machinery. He was the one who knew how the legacy software code worked when the servers crashed, and he was the one who knew the exact tariff regulations for shipping to obscure countries. Robert had a gift for solving problems before they became disasters. When a file was corrupt, Robert could fix it. When a client was angry, Robert could calm them down with facts and solutions. For the first 5 years, Robert believed in the dream. He arrived 30 minutes early every day, and he left an hour late. He believed that he was banking social capital. He watched his colleagues struggle with tasks that took him 10 minutes, so he would offer to help. "Let me handle that," he would say, and he would take the burden off their shoulders. At first, they were grateful. They would buy him coffee and call him a lifesaver. But gratitude has a short half-life in the corporate world. Soon the favors became expectations. The phrase "Ask Robert" became the standard operating procedure for the entire floor. If the printer jammed, ask Robert. If the quarterly report was confusing, ask Robert. If the manager didn't want to deal with a difficult vendor, ask Robert. Robert became the unofficial fixer of the department. He felt important. He felt needed. He thought that this indispensability was his armor. He thought that when the time came for the annual review, his file would be glowing with praise, and he would be lifted up to a position of leadership where he could teach others his methods. But Robert did not understand the physics of the workplace. He did not understand that by making himself the solution to every problem, he had removed the incentive for anyone else to learn. He had made himself the glue, holding a broken department together. The turning point came when the director of operations announced that he was stepping down. A senior management position was opening up. It was the role Robert had been preparing for his entire life. He knew the systems better than anyone. He knew the clients. He knew the flaws in the workflow and how to fix them. He spent his weekend preparing a 20-page presentation outlining a strategy to increase efficiency by 15%. He walked into the interview with his boss, a man named Mr. Sterling, feeling confident. He laid out his vision. He showed the data. He spoke with passion about how he could lead the team to a new era of productivity. Mr. Sterling listened and nodded and took notes. At the end of the meeting, Sterling smiled and said, "Robert, this is impressive work. Truly impressive. We are lucky to have you." Robert left the room feeling like he was walking on air. He waited for the announcement. 2 weeks later, a company-wide email went out. The new director of operations was not Robert. It was a man named Kevin. Kevin had been with the company for 2 years. Kevin did not know how to fix the software. Kevin often asked Robert to explain simple spreadsheets to him, but Kevin was charismatic. Kevin spent his days in the break room laughing with the executives. Kevin played golf with Mr. Sterling. Kevin was not competent, but he was visible. Robert was crushed. He walked into Mr. Sterling's office trembling with a mixture of rage and confusion. He asked for an explanation. He asked why he had been passed over for a man who knew half as much as he did. Mr. Sterling looked at Robert with a look of genuine confusion and said, "Robert, you are the best analyst we have. You are the only one who keeps this department running. If I promoted you to management, who would do the work. We cannot afford to lose you from your current role. You are too valuable right where you are." The words hit Robert like a physical blow. Too valuable to promote. It was the ultimate irony. His competence was not his ladder, it was his cage. Because he was so good at doing the work, he could never be allowed to lead the work. Management was reserved for those who could be replaced. But the workhorse had to stay in the field until it collapsed. Robert went back to his desk and sat in silence. He looked at the pile of files on his desk, files that belonged to other people's files that he had agreed to finish because he was nice. He looked at Kevin Z's office, where Kevin was already laughing on the phone, probably planning a lunch meeting. A cold realization washed over Robert. He realized that he had been playing the wrong game. He thought the game was about production, but the game was about perception. He had made it too easy for them. He had smoothed out every bump in the road, so his boss never felt the jarring impact of the team's incompetence. He had covered up the cracks so well that management thought the building was brand new. Something inside Robert broke that day, but it was not a loud break. It was the quiet snap of a man deciding to stop caring. He decided to test a theory. He decided to see what would happen if he stopped being the hero. The next day, when a colleague asked him to fix a corrupted database, Robert smiled politely and said, "I would love to help, but I'm swamped with my own assignments today. You might have to call IT support." The colleague looked shocked. They didn't know how to call IT support because Robert had always been the support. The database remained broken for 3 days, causing a delay in shipping. When Mr. Sterling rushed to Robert's desk, asking why the report was late, Robert pointed to his job description and said quietly, "I completed my section on time, sir. I believe the delay is coming from the data entry team. I am sure they are working on it." For the first time in 5 years, Mr. Sterling had to feel the pain of his own department's inefficiency. He had to deal with the angry emails. He had to stay late to figure out why the numbers didn't match. He came to Robert pleading for help. Robert helped, but he did it slowly. He did it with the speed of an average employee. He did not use his shortcuts. He did not use his magic. He did the work exactly as asked, and not an inch more. He instituted a policy of malicious compliance. If the rules said a form needed 3 signatures, he waited for 3 signatures even if it took a week. He became a mirror reflecting the system's brokenness back at itself. The chaos that ensued was predictable. Deadlines were missed. Clients complained. And for the first time, Mr. Sterling realized that Kevin, the new director, had no idea what he was doing. Kevin tried to delegate tasks to Robert, but Robert would ask for email confirmation and specific instructions, which Kevin could not provide because he didn't understand the work. The department began to crumble, and in the midst of the rubble, Robert found a strange sense of peace. He went home at 5 o'clock. He started reading books again. He realized that his stress had come from carrying the weight of 20 people who didn't care about him. He had been proud of being the Atlas of the office holding up the sky, but he realized that Atlas is just a prisoner with a heavy job. He learned the art of the dimmer switch. He learned that intelligence is a resource that must be rationed. If you give 100% of your light all the time, people will just wear sunglasses and ignore you. But if you keep your light dim and only shine it when it benefits, you people will marvel at your brilliance. 6 months later, Robert handed in his resignation. He had found a job at a competitor for a higher salary and a better title. When he told Mr. Sterling he was leaving, Sterling turned pale. He offered Robert a raise. He offered him a bonus. He offered him anything he wanted. He said, "Robert, the place will fall apart without you." Robert smiled the smile of a man who holds the keys to his own handcuffs. He said, "I am sure Kevin will figure it out. After all, he is the director." Robert walked out of the building and never looked back. He heard later that it took them 3 people to replace him, and even then, they couldn't undo the work he did alone. The lesson Robert learned is one that every competent person must eventually face. Competence without boundaries is self-sabotage. If you are the person who always says, yes, you're teaching people that your time has no value. If you are the person who always fixes the mistake, you are teaching people that mistakes have no consequences. You must be careful with your excellence. Do not cast your pearls before swine, for they will only trample them and then turn to attack you. You must learn to let fires burn. It is painful to watch things fail, especially when you know you could fix them with a snap of your fingers. But sometimes the fire is necessary. The fire is the only thing that alerts the people in the ivory tower that there is a problem. If you put out every small fire silently, the management assumes the house is fireproof until it burns to the ground. You are not the guardian of the galaxy. You are an employee selling your labor for a negotiated price. Do not give away the premium package for free. If you find yourself in the curse of competence, stop digging. Put down the shovel. Look around. You will see that the people who are climbing the ladder are not the ones with the most dirt on their hands. They are the ones who know how to stand on the pile that you built. It is time to stop building piles for others to stand on. It is time to build your own platform. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is play dumb. Sometimes the most efficient thing you can do is wait. And sometimes the only way to prove your worth is to let them see what the world looks like when you are gone. Do not be the load-bearing wall. Be the architect. Or better yet, be the tenant who knows when to move out. The curse of competence is only a curse if you let them use it against you. In your own hands, it can be a weapon, but only if you keep it sheathed until the price is right. Save your best work for your own life. Save your energy for your own dreams. The company will survive without you, or it won't. But that is not your tragedy to write. Your story belongs to you.